Thank you, Darko. Welcome back to another wonderful interview with our authors on this year's virtual book tour. Our theme is sharing stories to impact our world. And today we have two wonderful dynamic authors, uh, versatile individuals who will be presenting on different topics. And so we welcome them and we thank again the Motivate community for partnering with Activate Core to launch this year's virtual book tour on your platform. It has just been wonderful. We have had wonderful speakers on this platform, and we are so grateful for your partnership. So thank you once more. And at this time, I turn over to Dr. Stephanie Fletcher-Lartey. Go ahead. Thank you.
Well, thank you so much. What a beautiful introduction. I just want to thank Darko and Jennifer and for the team for the invitation to be here today. I'm really excited to be sharing with you on this very important topic. And I just want to greet everyone who is online. For those of you who don't know me, I'm Dr. Stephanie Fletcher-Lartey. I wear many hats, and I think that's going to be an important part of my sharing today. I kind of figure out that's part of the reason why I resonated really well with this topic. So I want to just jump straight into it as we delve into this topic about work-life harmony. And today I wanted to share a few of the strategies that I believe have worked for me and many other people that I know. But as we're sharing today, I really would love to hear your ideas, because there might be something that you've done that's helped you that we haven't heard as yet, and that will be a great addition to our toolkit of strategies, all right? So we're going to be looking at some strategies for fulfilling career and personal life goals, all right? So I'm joining you live from Sydney, Australia, and I'm super thrilled to be here. And I hope that, as we talk today, that you will be part of. I'd love to hear your stories as well as we speak today. Now, I want to dive deep into this, and I want to see how some of the strategies that I will be sharing could help, might impact you or someone in, a lot of people are having very hectic lifestyles nowadays. People are trying to just do the work, being parents, moms, and so on. And it can be difficult. Like personally, I wear many different hats, and we'll share a little bit more about that as we go along. I think the first point I wanted to share today as we discuss about work-life harmony is we need to understand what it is we're talking about. Work-life harmony refers to this idea that both professional ambitions and personal life can actually coexist synergistically, right? One of the myths that people sometimes share about this is that balance means spending equal amount of time on work and on personal activities. But in reality, harmony really varies based on individual circumstances or based on people's individuality. Harmony for me will look different harmony for me will look different from harmony for Jennifer or for Winifred or for Darko, right? Now, there's a study conducted by Harvard Business Review that suggests that employees who believe they have good work-life balance, they work 21% harder. How amazing is that? That those people who believe they have struck a balance between their work and their profession and their personal life, these people actually work harder. And I think we probably will find out, or I don't know whether we will come to that conclusion at the end of this talk, but I'd love to hear your thoughts when we finish today about what you think, if this is something that is actually achievable. Now, as I mentioned when I introduced myself earlier, that I wear many different hats. I'm a wife, I'm a mom of 4 kids, and I have 1 under 10 and 3 over 16. So you can understand. But I also do several other things. And for those of you who see me on social media or you follow me in my writings or my podcast, I have a very active podcast. I'm a preacher, I'm a teacher, I'm a singer, I'm a songwriter, I'm a transformational coach. I mentor people. I also have a full-time job outside of all of this. All right, 9 to 5. So I've learned over the years, though, that there actually can be a balance between what all these many things that I do, and if you do it all as part of an overall template or a part of the tapestry of your life. So I'm going to say that upfront, that everything I do, I kind of just see it all as one big thing. And there are days when I put different things in different buckets, but it helps me to see it all as just me doing different activities at different times of the day and at different times in my life. All right. So once we've understood what work-life harmony is, and as I said, everybody has their own way of seeing this harmony. The next thing I really believe is important is that we should know our core values, because our core values are those fundamental beliefs and principles that guide our behavior, our decisions, and our interactions. These represent what is most important to us, and they are the foundations upon which our character and our integrity is built on. So the first step in understanding this harmony is really to understand what really matters most to you. You know, what are the non-negotiables? What areas of my life I am not willing to negotiate on, whether this is my personal life or in my professional life. And for those who've heard me speak before, I think you know that there are certain things that are very critical in my own life that I do not compromise on. And what one of my books called The Professional Believer's Guide, I actually talk about the importance of people living their life or their faith-based life, their spiritual life as this as a whole, and not really segmenting it and calling this part, and the other part. It's me. I am me, whether I'm in the temple or I'm in the place where I'm doing the non-spiritual or non-religious activities, but I am a person, and the things that I do are activities conducted by one person. So I believe that our core values are really critical, and they demonstrate that aspect of consistency and authenticity. And when we adhere to our core values, this ensures that we have consistency and authenticity in our actions. It basically, we're being true to who we are, helping us to build trust and credibility, whether we're at home or abroad. Ensuring our personal and professional choices align with our core values really creates a kind of harmony and reduces internal conflict that leads to greater satisfaction in both areas of life. And again, I believe that that's something that I do. My core values align with what I do, whether people are seeing me or they're not seeing me. And so even the very jobs that I seek, the things that I do for money, they must align with my core values, because that is how I get fulfillment and joy from what I do. Our core values also serve as a compass and a guide to our decisions that ensures that our career path is in alignment with our own personal and professional ethics. One of the things I like to say to people is, if what I do at work does not give me joy, that when I go home, I can talk about it, it's not worth doing. So our core values must be like the beacon, the guiding light that guides how we do both. And that is one of the critical aspects of bringing them together in harmony. The third thing I want to mention is around time management. So now we've understood what this harmony is, and that there's a foundation that is built on core values. The next important thing is really around effective time management. When you are as busy as I am, effective time management is critical. It involves setting priorities, avoiding procrastination, and fostering high impact activities as a focus, right? Many people have different strategies that they use for time management. There's a technique called the Eisenhower matrix, or the time blocking to prioritize tasks. And this really is about organizing the activities that we do and prioritizing them based on their urgency and importance. Many years ago, when I worked as an epidemiologist, was the very first time one of my colleagues introduced me to this issue of this square, and we do a square, and we draw a line down the middle horizontally and another one vertically. And what I would do is, on the first one at the top left would be urgent and important. On the top right would be important but not urgent. The bottom one would be urgent but not important, and the other side would be neither urgent nor important. And I started to just put my work into this. We had this with this whiteboard in our room. I worked with another epidemiologist, and I started to realize that we became more efficient. And one of the things that I realized was in this activity is that there are lots of urgent and important things that are not necessarily urgent for me, but it could be urgent for my organization. And because of the role that I play, then it has to become urgent for me because of the importance. It's something like developing a brief or doing something that's critical. I worked in emergency context, right? So sometimes it's important also that as we are putting things in their respective urgent and important buckets, that we decide, who is it urgent for? Is it urgent for me, or is it urgent for someone else? For example, as a mom, I have children, and so my child may have an assignment that's due tomorrow, and they need me to review that, and I have to do a talk today. Their assignment is urgent for them, and it's important for them, but I have an urgent and important activity to do now. This is where the prioritization really comes in. Determining what do you prioritize, because my child might need my assistance to review something, or it could be something like sickness. So sometimes it may not necessarily be that important for you, but because of the urgency, it ends up going into that bucket. And so being able to identify and prioritize tasks based on their urgency and their importance helps you to really not majoring in things that do not really demand or require so much of your time. But it's also important to understand about delegation, because something might be urgent and important, but I don't necessarily have to do it. I can delegate this to one of the older children or to my partner, because they might be able to step in the gap. It also means that I have dealt with it, but I am not necessarily the one who has physically done it. Or I could give some instructions about how to do this, and someone else could follow through in providing that assistance that I don't physically have to do. I'd love to hear from you. I would love to ask you to maybe type in the chat some of the ideas about how you manage your time. What are some of the strategies you do to manage your time? And I'll read them out at the end. All right. As we continue, and I'm going to come back, I'd love to hear about how you're managing your time, is creating boundaries. It's so important to create boundaries. Boundaries for yourself, for colleagues, for family, around your availability and your time limits. I used to really struggle with this. I was so busy helping everyone else, looking after everybody else's business. There was a time in my life, everybody had a need. It was Stephanie. It was me, 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 me. And what I realized was, I'm the kind of person, I will drop whatever I'm doing and go and look after everybody else's business. And then I came back and my pile was this high. And I started to learn that if I was going to be able to serve others and serve myself, I really had to put up these boundaries. And one of the things I did was I got a calendar. People can't just call me anytime or just rock up anytime at my door and, call me with really heavy lifting stuff and expect me to drop everything. So now I've got a calendar. You need me in my time that I'm available, and in my calendar, I have slotted out time that is bookable. The rest of the time, you don't touch it. That's my time to do my stuff with my family. Yes, unless it is something that is urgent, that's an emergency, I may take something out of that time. But that is time that I have quarantined. That means you can't get me in that time unless that's a life and death situation, literally. So it's important that we are cordoning off time, quarantining time for us to be able to spend. And that will help you also to be more calm and less stressed over the assignments and the activities that you need to do. All right. So here we have a few comments that are coming from some of the listeners. One person says, I also use the Eisenhower matrix and the time blocking. Another person is saying, making a list of tasks and then doing them based on their importance. Another person says they create boundaries. This is really important for us as we are trying to create this balance. And oftentimes, what I find is that it's really not that difficult to isolate time to do activities if you are intentional about it. My third point that I wanted to make was creating flexible but firm schedules. So, yes, as I said, it's important to have these time blocks that are dedicated to, whether it's working on some personal time or family time, etc. But as I mentioned before, it's important to also allow a little bit of flexibility in there. So while our schedules are going to give us some structure, it's crucial to remain adaptable to unexpected changes. All right. When we are overly rigid and inflexible, that can also add to the stress in our lives. Work-life integration is probably one of my most effective way of creating harmony in my life. This strategy is I blend my professional responsibilities with my personal life. I mean, I have about 10, 15 different key activities that I do, right? So, for example, when I'm going to work in the morning, if there's something like a podcast or any learning activity that I do, I'm traveling to work. In that travel time, I am listening to a podcast, and I probably will mention something about that. Well, in terms of my continual learning, I listen to my trainings or activities. If there's something I need to catch up on, I do it in that time in my 50 or 1 hour commute. I'm catching up on maybe a meeting that I missed. I might want to listen to the recording or in between meetings. If I'm traveling from one place to the other for a meeting and I need to catch up on something that I can listen to, I will do it in that period of time. So that's not a wasted period of time. But it also means that I can also set aside some time in a slow period or a down period. And you might be wondering, do you really have a down period? Well, there might be a down period at work where I'm having a break from something when I might, chase up on a chore, which is a personal chore that I could actually do in that period of time, because that is allowed and it's not really stealing time because you are actually reciprocating that in your personal time of catching up on work activities. So having a healthy blend between work and the professional life is really important. Another way that we can do that is also use digital calendars and apps like Asana or Trello. um, I mentioned before that I use a calendar. I integrate my calendar into my website. Some people use another app called Calendly to make sure that they have time, bookable time. But other tools like Monday.com or Asana or Trello, they use these tools to manage time and tasks effectively. Or guess what? If you don't have these sophisticated applications, a simple Excel spreadsheet or a book and a table on a physical to-do list, but the important thing is whatever you are using, stick to it. By planning your day really meticulously and eliminating time-wasting activities, you can manage or make significant progress towards your goals of having more time for either work or personal life. And I can tell you personally that I have seen this work in my own life. The fourth point I wanted to make was self-care and personal assessment. Self-care and personal fulfillment is really, really important. As we are trying to seek balance between our work and our personal life, it's really important that we are taking care of ourselves. This is an area in my life that I never really paid much attention to in the past because I was busy doing so many things and I would oftentimes ignore that self-care part of life. I have become more aware of that over time and that it's so critical and so important to balance self-care as we're busy doing everything else. Your physical and mental health must be a priority because without the physical health and the mental health. The other things are actually not done at the optimum or at the optimal level that you'd like to see that. Regular exercise and sleep and mindfulness practices can enhance productivity and satisfaction. I'll share a quick story with you. Some time ago, I embarked on a journey of weight loss and to become more physically active in my life. I remember I'm one of those people that, I'm like a bunny. I'm always going, 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 going. And I always felt like I didn't have time to exercise because I was always too tired or I had so many other things to do. And I remember when I decided that I was going to bring physical activity as a routine part of my life, I went out and I started it. Not only did I integrate it seamlessly in my life, it became such a fulfilling activity. I literally exercise every single day of the week, right? And some weeks I may take a rest day or two. However, it's a rest day because I'm resting. But what I also found out though was that mentally I was so sharp and alert from all the physical activity. I was so much more productive, so much more, in sync with what was happening around me, the mindfulness. I was so mindful of things. I was so switched on. My energy was just so amazing because now my physical activity had impacted on my mental and emotional health. Sleep is really critical, and this is an area that sometimes we often overlook. Having adequate amount of rest and sleep, just that downtime when the brain is not working. And as I'm mentioning sleep, it's really important to get rid of the mobile phones. I remember the days when I used to literally go to bed with my mobile phone by my bedside table. I have stopped doing that for several years now. I actually take my mobile phone, I leave it in the bathroom. I actually put sleep on. And if you call me after a certain time, I will not pick my phone up because guess what? It will not ring. You cannot get me after my sleep time. I have deliberately done that. And I noticed that not only do I sleep much better, it means I'm not interrupted. And every time there's a ping, I run to grab the phone. I wonder who is messaging me because there's this temptation like, oh, it must be important. So take some time, get rid of your phone, set these boundaries around what you will allow in your life when it is your time for rest. Engaging in hobbies and interests is another area that can really rejuvenate you. I'm a singer, I'm a reader, I write. I find that when I write, it makes me come alive. One of the things I do is journaling as well. And I see some comments coming in. I want to hear some of the self-care and personal fulfillment activities that you do. Let's share some of those in the chat, right? And Sasha said, sleep is important and we ought to treat it as is. I have started doing that in April. Doc was saying I do journaling too a lot. I find that journaling is such a fulfilling activity. It really, it's such an inspiration to me. Like what I'm hearing, one of the things that we as coach talk about is like noticing what you're noticing or paying attention to your thoughts and what you're thinking. I realize that when I journal, I am able, it's like I'm having a conversation with myself. And oftentimes, as I'm capturing that, I can take into captivity some of the negative thoughts. As you begin to write and you spend that quiet time, it's very therapeutic. And Doc, I hope it's okay. I just literally I'm going to release a book around journaling, your gratitude and your prayers and so on. It's something that I've been thinking about for a while, and I've actually decided, you know what, I'm gonna share some ideas about how people can actually do. I've been doing this for years, and I often go back to see which prayer was answered or, what I do in that time when I'm connecting with my spiritual side, and the revelations and that inspiration that comes in these quiet moments. And then you actually see the manifestation and you're thinking, oh my goodness, I wrote that down. And you go back through, you read through and you check the date and you like tick. And it's a way to build your faith and also your hope that things actually do work out when you're in sync and you're in alignment with your own purpose. Juliet is saying, get rid of your phone. It's great advice. Reading before bed and journaling gives me a good night rest and good dreams. I love that. This is also a good time for writing inspirations in the journal. So I'm really encouraging us. Engage in hobbies of interest, and whether it's reading, gardening, sports, or journaling, it's a very fulfilling and inspirational activity that really gets your spirit alive. Now, for those of us who are working in companies, most companies, especially the larger companies or the well-established companies, will have some kind of workplace well-being program. If you don't have anything outside, because somebody might be saying, I don't know where to find, there might be something at work. And the demands of your job may require you to be working in different locations, traveling or remotely, but take advantage of whatever is available and encourage or participate in well-being programs if your organization offers them. Now, the next point I want to make is building your support networks. Support, support, support. None of us, we are not islands. I know a lot of people who go into this Lone Ranger thing. There's a time for it, but this Lone Ranger thing is not going to help you because, most of us, it doesn't matter your background, a lot of us will say it takes a village, right? It takes a village. And for us as parents, we know it really does take a village, right? It's important for us to build those positive relationships and surround ourselves with positive influences that can help us stay motivated and focused. I encourage you, seek out relationships that challenge you to grow and eliminate the toxic associations that hinder progress. So what I find out, there was a time in my life when I had so many people around me, but I also realized that people were always taking. But these people who take the most never give anything. They're never there to cheer you on. They're never there to support you. And anytime you're trying to get a leg up, they're the first person to bring the dissuasion. They're the first ones to say, oh, why are you doing that? Because toxic people thrive in toxicity. And so if you're trying to step up or to get a move on, these people don't want to see you leave them in that situation. So they're always looking for an opportunity to pull you back into that place of stagnation, right? And then you have the ones that we call the black crabs, right? And pardon me, this is probably more of a Jamaican saying. Crabs have a tendency, if you put them in a barrel, and they have the capacity to get out. But what will happen is as they build that bridge and they get to the top, the ones below will pull the others down and you cannot get anywhere. This black crab syndrome or the crab's mentality is something that really affects us. There are people who are complacent and they're happy to be where they are. They have no intention of moving forward. The moment you decide that I'm going to do something to change my life, they are not going to let you just move like that. So you have to be intentional. You have to really decide, am I making a move or not? And then you have to decide that some of these people will just have to be left behind. I encourage you to focus on the relationships that challenges you and encourages you to grow. In this, we all have our loved ones, whether it's your partner, it can also be your children. For me, my children are growing up now, and I'm finding out that I'm starting to help them to understand that I want to lean on them. For example, my older daughter, she's really good at social media and she's quite creative. Now, instead of me doing all my social media stuff, I'm actually delegating a few stuff and asking her, can you help me with this? I'm starting to do that. I'm starting to do that because I also want my daughter to see that I value her creativity and her skill, and that I consider that what she does is of such quality that mom is okay with it, right? I created a lead magnet the other day for some of my clients. I was creating this book that I was giving away for free. But I know that she needs the skills. And I thought it's a great idea. So I created my content, but I wanted to do some creative stuff. And I delegated that to my daughter. And she was really happy to support me. And of course, there are the little incentives. Yes, Cooper, there are there are incentives. I make sure that I also demonstrate that I value that time and that support by making sure there are incentives. All right. So lean on loved ones for support and open communication about your challenges and your wins, right? I find too that it's good to be able to share some of the challenges with people you genuinely believe love you and they want your best interest. And sometimes I find that by just sharing that, just by speaking it out or sharing it with a loved one or trusted friend, as you are sharing it, oftentimes the answer comes in that moment. So I truly encourage us, not just with the verbal sharing, but also get people to lighten the load. When my children joined me in Australia, and it was just me, and then my family multiplied, I leaned a lot on my community. I had to lean on other people so that I was still able to do some of the things that I loved and wanted to continue. Seek out mentorship and professional networks. Mentors who have successfully achieved work-life harmony and learn from their experiences. Engaging community or social groups that align with your interests to expand your support network. Some of the things that we are sharing on platforms like these help us to understand things better. For example, someone might be up here that says, oh, I have been struggling with my time management, but today I've learned that there's a simple way that I can make a list and prioritize, and then I tick things off. Cooper is saying that last week I ticked off the last item on a list I wrote in 2022. But that's really great because you actually had a list. What about if you did not have that list? Maybe that thing would not have been ticked off because it was nowhere on your radar. So it's really important. Engaging with mentors is very important. Thank you, Darko. So I want to kind of bring this down to a close, and I really hope that we can have a bit of discussion about some of these points in the next 3 or so minutes. The main final topic I want to mention is dedicating yourself to continuous learning and improvement. The journey to success involves continual learning and self-improvement. One of the reasons why I believe I have been successful in managing multiple businesses, multiple hobbies, supporting multiple people as a coach and a mentor, and being able to partner and support friends like Darko and Jennifer in what they're doing is because of my desire to always learn more. Because when I'm with these people, I'm learning from them as much as they are learning from me. This means being open to new ideas, seeking knowledge, and continually refining our skills. We can dedicate time each day to reading, learning, reflecting, as I mentioned before. I mentioned earlier about spending that time on my journey to work. One of the things that I do is I feed my soul, I feed myself with inspiration from people who are ahead of me. I listen to what the people who have succeeded, those who have achieved where I'm planning to go. I listen to them. I hear what they've done. I find strategies. I find encouragement. And, and I do this every single day. I make time in my day to feed myself and learn. I gather nuggets and tools and I get insights and I adapt those and I implement them in my daily walk. I really want to encourage us to adopt an attitude of continuous learning. This ongoing commitment to personal growth ensures that we are always evolving and adapting to new challenges and opportunities. And this can identify where and how to strike the right balance between the different demands of personal life and work life. So in summary, I just wanted to recap. It is important to understand that work-life harmony means understand what work-life harmony means to you. Your work-life harmony will look very different from mine. and it will look different from everyone else on this platform. But it is important that we are setting clear priorities. Make sure we set up those boundaries. Maintain a flexible schedule for anything that may pop up as a critical or urgent emergency. Prioritize self-care. Build a strong and supportive network and invest into continuous learning and self-improvement. So as I bring this to a close, I want to share just few quick action steps that we can take away from here today. Start by assessing your current work-life balance this week and identify one area to improve, even by 10%, whether that is your time management or whether that is prioritization, whatever it is. It's important to balance your life. It's very critical to understand the importance of rest and recovery. Incorporating regular breaks into your routine to recharge and rejuvenate is very important. Ensure there's adequate sleep and engage in activities that relax and refresh you. Understand that rest is not a sign of weakness, but a necessity. It's a very necessary component of success. So, in closing, remember, achieving work-life harmony is an ongoing journey, and it looks different for you from what mine looks like. But as we do this, celebrate the small wins along the way and remain patient with yourself. Take your time, and I wish you all a harmonious and fulfilling life. Thank you so much. Back to you, Darko and Jane.
Dr. Stephanie, where can we access your wonderful resources? Please drop these in the chat. We'd love to see your work and, of course, follow your numerous social media platforms. Please do. Thank you.
Thank you so much. I will provide a link in the chat. Thank you.
I want also to share. Thank you for to say thank you for sharing. It is really engaging. I want to say this continuous learning. I also have incorporated this, and this is one of my goals, core values. So I like to continuous learning, even though especially in my country, when I was growing up, it was believed that you are learning while you are on university, and after that is only working. But nowadays, I think it is necessity. I saw some authors, it was shared, like Lisa Nichols, John Maxwell. I think I heard this from Jim Rohn. Jim Rohn, he's someone who says, invest more time in your learning than in your job. Yes, so that is something which is very useful.
So good, so good. These are my people, I listen to them. I'm a part of the Tony Robbins and Dean Graziosi Mastermind. I listen to Myron Golden literally every day. I get inspiration from these people. That's right.
I'm making the giant.
Yeah, I signed up for Lisa Nichols' session last week. Last week I was on her session. Wonderful. It was just
amazing.
Always improving. I make sure I block out the time. Like on Sundays, in the morning, I reflect, I journal, I do self-development. It's just about me learning and pouring into myself so that I can pour into others. You can't pour from an empty cup. You have to spend time to rest, to refill, to recharge, to build yourself up so that you can be more effective to the persons that you're serving.
That's right. That's right. So good.
Okay, if you have any other questions or comments for Dr. Stephanie, now you can open your microphones and you can, let's have a little chat for about 5 minutes. Go ahead. Jay, it's great to see you today. Do we have any questions? Go ahead.
There's someone here was saying, I've tried many times and failed. I just want to encourage you that failure is, the fact that you didn't succeed does not necessarily mean you have failed. The fact that you've kept trying so many times means that you are on your way to overcoming that hurdle. Failure is when you stop and you give up without continuing to try. It is important that you continue to try even when you don't get the results that you are looking for. Because as we continue, as Thomas Edison said, every time it didn't work out, it was feedback. It's feedback. It's feedback that, well, we know this way didn't work. We know this doesn't work. And as we continue to keep going and keep trying, the answer will come. And I have learned that over time, that failure is feedback. Thank you, Irene. Failure is feedback. You know, when it doesn't work out, consider it as feedback, because now you know that this method doesn't work, right? So the fact that you keep trying means that you are on your winning streak. You will get there and you will eventually find it out. And there are so many things that you can do by, as I said, you know, surround yourself with people. Find out what other people are doing that is getting them results. All right? Please don't see that the fact that you have tried many times is a failure, because in fact, it's the exact opposite. And as Jen says, the intentionality is really where the winning is. Just continue to be intentional, keep pressing forward, because as long as you keep moving in the direction of where your dream is or where that goal is, you are getting closer to that dream.
Yes.